This is Beer in Front, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I'll talk about some old school beers that maybe you've forgotten about, some new beers that have the potential to be a classic. I'll also talk to various people around the beer world and get their stories all about beer. That's Beer in Front, and it's coming up now. Welcome to episode 195 of Beer in Front. I'm your host, Dave Zalatoris, and Beer in Front is a proud Odd Pods Media Network member. On today's show, I went to the Logan Square location of Ravinia Brewing Company, and I spoke to Jeff Hoobler, who's one of the owners. I'm telling you right now, as much as I like their beer, the food that we had was absolutely outstanding. That interview is going to come up after some housekeeping. Dry January is over, and I'm glad I did it. I dropped some weight, stopped snoring, and discovered some really good NA beers and other options that are out there. I want to thank Joe and the team over at Go Brewing for the inspiration, and now that it's February, I'm still going to have some NA stuff because it's just that good. From here on out, I want to focus on more interview shows than the solo ones. I have some good ones coming up with At Chicago Bars, Rock Solid Brewing, Mortal Kombucha. I'm working on a couple others that are pretty good as well. On the weeks where there's no interview that I have lined up, the solo shows are going to be bi-weekly. What I've noticed in the last month or so, if there's no interview and there's not a lot of beer news out there, the shows are pretty quick and you're hearing more ads than you are anything else. So solo shows I'll put out on a bi-weekly episode. Interview shows I'll put out as soon as I record them and edit them. So those will come out right away. So a little change in what's happening with Beer in Front, but not too much. You could also catch all the reviews, even soda pop, food, things like that. You could catch those on video over on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. So if you haven't already, please follow me over there.
I'm Richie, aka Midnight Agent Raw.
I'm Devin, aka Special Delivery Dev.
We're the Super Media Bros podcast. And each week, we give a comedically informative take on movies,
Music,
television,
pro wrestling,
and much more. Check us out at supermediabrospodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that you can listen to podcasts. Shades on.
We're off.
Be sure to catch the latest from Super Media Bros wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, Ravinia Brewing Company was founded in 2014. They medaled at the GABF and FOBAB in 2022. There's 2 locations in Illinois, one in Highland Park at 582 Roger Williams Avenue, and the one I'm at now in Chicago's Logan Square neighborhood at 2601 West Diversey. They have a new beer called Community Matters, which they just canned yesterday. So this is hot off the press. It's a Vienna-style lager, which is my favorite style. So I'm here to have that and talk beer with Jeff Hoobler, one of the owners of Ravinia Brewing Company. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on to talk about the brewery.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh.
Excited to be here and talk about our beer and our food.
Yeah. Normally, I'll start with, the Batman origin story and how you got started. But it's February 1st, and I did Dry January, so let's have this beer. It's the newest one I mentioned. It's called Community Matters. Why the name, and why isn't it just a name? It's part of your mission statement here at Ravinia.
Yeah, I mean, when we started the company in 2014, it was always going to be a small community organization and a place for people to come and hang out. That was really the idea behind it, and we founded it on 3 pillars: community, craft, and creation. Mm-hmm. We wanted to be able to create really cool craft beers and have a lot of variety, but really the focus is all about the communities we're in.
Yeah.
And so we do things such as our Give Back program, where anybody can go to our website and sign up for a Give Back program. They can do events here. You know, we had the Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestra signed up on our website. They had the kids play here. It was great. They made some money. You know, it's a win-win for everybody, and it's a lot of fun. And so community has always been the backbone of Ravinia Brewing.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to have a sip of this. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, it smells great. Oh, that's really good. Lovely malt characteristics, like the hops. No, that's good. Like I mentioned, it's probably my favorite style, and that's really good.
Yeah, we're very happy with it. We did an Irish. We kind of like it's really I think a perfect beer coming into February and March.
Yeah.
You know, we did an Irish red last year, but it's just not the same. You get this. The Vienna Lager is just a beautiful beer.
Yeah, I mean, that was the beer that got me interested in craft beer because, you know, I'm 56, so I grew up drinking Old Style or Stroh's, whatever my dad had. And I remember the first time I had a Samuel Adams, which is, you know, Vienna Lager style. You know, like, what is this? You know, so that started me down this. Was there a beer or brewery that got you into beer and made you want to do this?
I don't know if there was one in particular. There probably wasn't a beer. A style would be the West Coast style IPA, like a lot of people that kind of lent into the craft beer industry. But one of the places, so I lived in Chicago, moved here in Roscoe Village in 2004, and the Math Room was kind of the place to go. That was the place you could hit where, like, you want to try craft beer, that's where you go. And they always had some great West Coast IPAs, and that kind of started the craft beer journey for me. I was always looking for little things, but they tended to be more like Killian's Irish Red or some other macro beer, but it was a little different. And then, you know, Sam Adams, like you mentioned. But yeah, it was really a West Coast IPA guy that hooked me.
You have beers for every palate. You have your taco truck. You have, I saw black IPA in the case. You have a fruited sour called Don't Be a Bully. Are you always looking for new styles, or like how far in advance do you plan your yearly brew schedule?
So first, kind of two questions there. First, we always want to be that place where everybody can go to. And again, it gets back to the community. We want everybody to think they can come here and get what they want. That's like when we were looking at the licensing we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure we were able to have liquor, and, you know, if somebody wanted a shot of Malort, you could get a shot of Malort. You know, it's part of the experience of going to a place. And so we're always trying to be very well-rounded in that regard. When it comes to actually what we make, we plan everything. We basically pre-plan everything a year in advance. So we have a year out. Our distributor knows kind of what we're making internally, what we're making externally. We may not have the names, we may not have the recipes, and then basically 6 months out, we really try to refine. These are exactly the beers we're making. You know, maybe there's still some work to do on the recipes, but you know, you really have to plan these things out, and you have to work with your distributor, and you have to kind of have the thinking seasonality that's associated with it. So yeah, it's a year out, sometimes even a little more, that we're kind of like, this will be a tap room, this will be a super small batch release, this will be distribution. So yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, there's always trends in beer, but like say next month, such and such style became popular. How quickly could you get that out to just the tap room?
We can turn stuff around really fast. I mean, that is one, and we have in the past. When our brewers are excited about it, it's easy. They're ready to go. They're talking to people. They're making recipes, and there's something that they want to do. It's, you know, we could turn something around in 4 to 6 weeks if we wanted to.
Cool.
It's something when you want to do it, it's easy. We're a small business. We can turn things quickly.
In addition to like the award-winning beers, the variety of beers, I'm looking at your food menu, and that's outstanding. Like, your team here at Ravinia Brewing Company is top-notch.
Yeah, I mean, we've been very fortunate to work with some very good chefs. We had obviously a smaller place up north in Highland Park, and we created a Mexican-style taco menu theme, but it had to be relatively small with the space we had at that time. When we moved down here and we had this big kitchen, we hired a new guy, Christian. He left us for a little while, and I was very disappointed, but he's back now, which is great. He's working with Liz in the kitchen, and it's phenomenal. And we're doing a lot more than just the Mexican street tacos, which are still our core. It's the base. It's kind of like the core beers in distribution. But then we have our seasonal stuff. Like right now, one of our big things is we're doing, I'll call it a Mexican-style ramen. We have 2 versions of it. We have a pork carnitas version. It has some jalapenos and a little spice to it. And then we have a quesabirria version, which is really kind of crazy to think about. Like, you're taking a quesabirria, which is a really cool taco with cheese and barbacoa, and you're mixing it and making it into a ramen dish. And you have the ramen and you have a little quesabirria taco that comes with it, and it's just phenomenal. So for the winter, having something warm and fresh and just delicious like that is really cool.
Well, that was my next question, looking at the menu. What is deep fried ramen?
So that is our deep fried ramen burrito.
All right.
So basically, and this is something that kind of has taken off a little bit in California with some Vietnamese type ramen type dishes, but obviously this is more Japanese ramen. But basically, you take the ramen ingredients and you put it in one of our regular burritos and you lightly fry it.
Okay.
And it basically takes all those juices and locks them into this burrito shell, and you open it up and it's heaven. It's just amazing. And then we serve it with a little consomme of the ramen sauce or broth, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Very unique, and everybody should try that because it will shock you.
Yeah, I'm going through, doing research on this. All right, let me look at the food menu. I'm like, deep fried ramen? Oh, wait, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, we'll have to bring some out for you.
All right. Is the food menu, I noticed there's subtle differences between the 2 breweries.
They're subtle, but it's usually more based on specials.
Okay.
We do have a few more taco meats here, but we've been able to expand in Highland Park, and we now have a much larger kitchen.
All right.
So instead of we were basically initially making the tacos kind of on one side of the bar.
Yeah.
Kind of like you could watch the guy making the tacos, which is a cool experience until he smokes up the bar or does something wrong. But we now have a full kitchen up there as well.
All right.
So our menus, which were kind of divergent, have really kind of come together. We still, between our awesome chef up north, Brian, and Christian and Liz down here, we give them the creative freedom to kind of do some specials or maybe have a different taco meat, but the menus are pretty well aligned.
Cool. This location here is really superb. What are the differences? I mean, obviously size, this one's larger, but are there other differences between the 2?
No, we tried to keep the same look and feel. Obviously, this was an old warehouse, started out as a parts warehouse, and then Ale Syndicate took it over. But we tried to really keep that kind of like old school community feel. I mean, our bar is a 1920s bar. It was originally in Chicago. There's a legend of John Dillinger shooting a bullet through one of the doors, and that there's a bullet hole there. So I'm going to stick with the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was over in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, somewhere around Halstead. 1990s, they moved it up to Wisconsin, and we bought it at an auction because it's really just kind of that feel, that look and feel. And it's ironic, in Highland Park, it's kind of the same story. When we opened up in 2014, we had a lot of meetings over at this place called Ravinia Barbecue. What are we going to do? Because it was Ravinia Barbecue and Grill and Bar. They had a nice, beautiful bar there. And we'd sit around and have a few drinks and talk plans, talk beer, do these things. And then that place closed in 2015. And we were like, okay. And one thing led to another, and we actually put a lease in on that place. And that didn't work out so well because we kind of had an issue with one of our neighbors, which is sort of going on as well right now. And we ended up moving out, but we knew that the bar was there. And we ended up talking to the owner and be like, hey, we're thinking about moving into a smaller place that we don't have to do as much work to. Can we take the bar? And nobody's using it. And she was like, yes, take the bar. So now the bar has been in Highland Park, in the Ravinia business district of Highland Park. It's been there for 60 years, and hopefully it'll be there for another 60. So it's really kind of a cool look and feel to the place. It's not your modern brewery feel that a lot of the places have, or really industrial feel. We tried to make it just more your like community hangout bar, your tavern you would have gone to 80, 100 years ago.
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier, but can you tell the story, like initially you were going to take over, or did take over at one point, the cursed Black Hole location on Montrose?
Yeah, so when that place became available, we started talking with the landlord, and I'm actually in real estate, and he was looking to sell the building. So there was, Junior Ninja Warriors or some place next door, and then the place that we were looking at taking over, and ability to expand to the back and do more canning and things there. So the size of the facility kind of met our needs. So in 2017, we opened an LLC called Ravinia Brewing Company Chicago, and that was actually going to be our first location.
Okay.
Because we hadn't even started anything in Highland Park. We wanted to have 2 locations. Kind of, the craft brewing industry, no matter how small you want to be, it's still a volume game. You have to be able to make a fair amount of beer, sell a fair amount of beer. Having 2, maybe 3 locations is a good idea, and one of them needs to have a production facility. That place fit the bill. So we were looking at doing that. The taproom was all built out, gorgeous taproom, by the way. And we really just needed more beer making capabilities there. So we were getting started on plans and designs and all that stuff. In the meantime, we had our liquor license with the city of Chicago. We had our food license. We could kind of open at any time. And it's one of those tragic Chicago stories. There was an incident with a wooden truss building on the south side of Chicago, and some firefighters died. And it kind of just changed this happened to be another wooden truss building. And we really took that seriously as we were looking at buying the building. There was a kid's place next door, and we're like, we got to do some real further investigation. And this was all after we already had our liquor license, our food license. We were weeks away, and we were like, we got to look into this. And so we did, had some people come out, and there were some major issues with the bow trusses. And it was just something that we knew we were going to have to spend a lot of money to fix up. As a starting brewery, you don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so we talked with the landlord, like, hey, we want to stay, but we can't buy the building anymore. So negotiations went back and forth for a while, but eventually, probably sometime 2018, we decided it was best just to move on and not take the risk. And, we all know the story of what happened later. I mean, it's a sad story. Our friends at Twisted Hippo are still looking for a place to get back into. So like you said, it's kind of a cursed place.
Yeah. I mean, from the break room to, that could be a whole podcast episode just on
really
that location.
It could be like a Netflix series.
Yeah, because I remember, went to the break room, and that was good. I thought their beers there were pretty good. And I just started dating my now wife, who lives there, and now I live there too. I'm like, oh, so there's this really cool place down the street. Let's go there. And I remember they put on Twitter or X or whatever, for Cinco de Mayo. Well, this was the 6th. So we went there, closed. I'm like, what happened? And then, between Finch's and, everything else. Yeah, that definitely is a cursed spot.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges in opening a brewery, running a brewery, that you wish you knew, say, 10 years ago, outside of have good lawyers?
There's been a lot of challenges, and there's some you can never predict, like COVID. COVID derailed us so many times and in so many ways. We didn't have this place open, but we have garage doors here now. We basically started construction. We submitted our plans to the city of Chicago in February of 2020, before COVID. And then we got those plans approved in May of 2020. And at the whole time, you're like, restaurants aren't even open yet. And the ones that are, maybe they're going to do outdoor dining, So then we ended up redoing our plans, putting in big garage doors, like our building just completely opens up. Beautiful spot. Definitely in hindsight, probably worth the money. But then these garage doors, what are people doing? All the restaurants are now buying garage doors. So then that delays the opening another 6 months because you can't get the new windows in. And you just go down the list of things. So COVID was but that's one of those things. Like anybody who's opened a brewery, I don't think you're going to have to ever deal with that, hopefully. But the one thing I think that really just is difficult is it's a multifaceted project. You are not just, if you think you're just good at making beer, you need to be a business person, or you need to have partners. Somebody who's really good at marketing, somebody who's a business person, somebody who's a home brewer. And we actually, that's kind of what we have. My role, actually, I have a master's degree in mechanical engineering. So I'm the one fixing things. I'm making our infusion machine over there you saw earlier, where we're infusing our beers every Thursday. So it's just, you really have to have all aspects of running a business. And if you're going to have a kitchen, running a restaurant, because it is a restaurant at that point. It's not just serving beer. So you really need to be prepared for all the things that and essentially you want to be an expert or have experts in all those areas.
The amount of breweries that have opened just nationwide has tripled in
the last 10 years or so. Is that something you saw happening, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say we did. I would say post-COVID, we're seeing kind of an overexpansion of that.
Mm-hmm.
So as we got into it, we would have opened sooner, but things happen. And, the multitude of buildings we went through before we got it right, or we got the right spot for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. I think at some point you just need to make sure the space is right for you.
Yeah.
If you have to make the right decisions along the line. Don't force it. Don't try to start too soon. Make sure you're ready. So yeah, it's a big part of it.
Yeah. I'm always I enjoy either buying local, drinking local. And, 10 years ago, that was easy. You had something in the neighborhood or a quick drive. Now, there's so many, like I mentioned, where I live. I know a couple of years ago, I had State Representative Ann Williams on, and we were talking about the amount of breweries just in, her district. What do you have to do to stand out from all the competition within, let's say, a 10-minute drive from here?
Yeah, I think one of the things that the breweries do, which is interesting and I think works, is really working together.
Yeah.
We formed a relationship with Metropolitan and Maplewood called the Brewers Triangle.
Yeah.
And I think the people who go to these breweries, they're looking for one of two things. They're looking for their neighborhood spot that they're consistently going to go to. That's in our mind, that's our number one crowd. It's the people who are always coming back, that love the spot, love the food, love seeing their friends, their neighbors. It's kind of their thing. And then the second thing is really just being able to kind of create yourself as a destination for other people who want to go. And part of that is creating an area that is a destination.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Metropolitan had some issues and they're no longer with us, but hopefully we can revive the Brewers Triangle somehow.
Yeah.
Or it just becomes Maplewood and Ravinia putting on events. So
yeah, it's a shame with, what happened to them. And, actually, I don't know if another brewery's going to take that over. I think they were supposed to announce who won all the auctions yesterday. I thought they said by the end of the month, but you still have Ballast Point still closed. No one ever took over that space.
Yep.
So, you just wonder if anyone's going to move into some of these great vacant breweries that are around.
yeah. I don't know. Somebody bought the IP for a lot of money.
Okay.
So I'm hopeful that, somebody's going to try to either relaunch the brand or it's such a great outdoor spot too.
Yeah.
And it's great for us being able to walking distance and doing collabs and stuff with them. But yeah, it's a tough time. And I think to an extent, COVID is going to delay a lot of the closing of the breweries. We were able to get really good terms on financing to get us through those times, but those are loans.
Yeah.
And those come back to haunt you a little bit where it's like you have the money, you're paying off, the fact you weren't open for a large amount of time, but that money has to be paid back. And if you were one of those breweries that was maybe not doing as well, that's one of those things that it's just one more thing that you got to pay every month. So it is difficult.
Your Highland Park location, now that was open before the pandemic. Have sales there rebounded to 2019 levels?
We're probably beyond 2019.
Okay.
We've had nice growth, every year. Obviously, 2020 was a down year.
Yeah.
But basically, you strip that away, we've had nice growth. The city of Highland Park has been a great resource. When COVID happened and almost out of the blue, the governor decided that outdoor dining was cool. The city of Highland Park was amazing.
Yeah.
They worked with us to shut down the street in front. We had outdoor dining. We had outdoor dining in the winter, which thinking about it now, I can't believe people were coming and drinking outside and eating outside and doing all that with us. But the city was great with us. And then the city worked to create new outdoor dining guidelines. And it works great where we're at. We're very fortunate because we live in a very walkable neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so we're able to take over a few of the parking spots and put tables and chairs out there. And neighbors love to walk by and see their neighbors.
Yeah.
It's something like, I'm going to go walk the dog.
Yeah.
And then you end up seeing somebody, you sit down and you have a beer with them. And it's a great atmosphere. And so because of that, we've been able to continue to grow in Highland Park, and we're at a great spot right now.
Yeah. Did you have the whole space heaters and tents outside in the winter? All right.
We've bought a lot of heaters.
Yeah.
We have tents. We have, If we had more money, we have a beautiful beer garden at both facilities and back at both facilities, which is a little hard to see. So make sure you realize our beer gardens out back are great.
For like the 12 nice days a year that we have here. Yeah.
Hey, like today it's almost 50. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for somebody to walk in and ask to sit in the beer garden.
I'm waiting for somebody in the tank top to walk by and shorts.
Yes.
And I want to be delicate now, I say this because we all know what's happening, but with everything that's going on, seeing reports that the Highland Park community is really supporting the brewing company, that must really make you feel proud.
It really does. We created this with community behind it. It was always intended to be a local spot. And
Yeah.
I live within walking distance. My other major partner lives within walking distance of the brewery. We're always popping in.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bunch of friends that hang out there, a bunch of family members. Our kids like going there because they see kids that they go to school with there.
Yeah.
And it just, we always assumed people liked it, but like seeing the community support and realizing how much they really like it, it feels great.
Yeah, I know.
Support is great.
There was, I think you put out on social media the other day, like a Fox News Chicago, we had a story on it. And it just looks great. I'm glad that the community there is really behind you guys.
Yeah, and we've had trouble in Highland Park sometimes. There's a lot of open storefronts. People want more things to do, and the brewery is just a spot that people love. It's great when you hear a story of a young family moving up, and they were looking like, what neighborhoods could we move into on the North Shore, and they chose Highland Park, in particular the Ravinia neighborhood of Highland Park, because it had a great walkable strip. There's 3 or 4 good restaurants there, and there's a brewery.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is like my transition between Chicago, where it seems like everybody comes from, and the suburbs, and with kids, and they're like, I feel like I didn't have to give everything up to move to this Ravinia neighborhood.
Yeah, you don't have to drive 20 minutes to go somewhere like Schaumburg or wherever.
Yep.
Yeah. Once all of the outside noise is over with, what are your plans for the future? Are you going to open up another spot? Do you have any future plans for Ravinia Brewing Company?
Yeah, I mean, our next event on the horizon has always been Southern Illinois University Carbondale. So we won the proposal with them back in 2016, I believe. So ever since 2016, we've been working with them to create a production facility in actually 3 levels, a super small pilot system, a 4-barrel pilot system, and a big production system that's about 30 barrels, brew house size. So we've been working with them since 2016 on this, and it's been kind of like the evolution, right? We've always tried to work. We have the small community tap rooms, and it'd be great to then have a big production facility.
Right.
And whether we do a lot of contract brewing, obviously we would do our own stuff there, but it's the innovation that they would be doing down there, the labs they have, the resources they have, being able to teach the students how this actually works. Because they're one of, at the time they were one of 4 universities that had a fermentation science degree.
Okay.
So in this building, they're going to be making cheeses, wines, distilling. They have a distillery in there. They're going to have a production brewery, a small brewery, a big canning line, like the whole 9 yards. And they have all the labs to go with all that stuff. So it's just an amazing opportunity. In fact, one of our partners who's the original home brewer was working in China for a while. And we gathered some samples from the Great Wall of China. I took it to Carbondale and said, hey, can you make out of this sample, can you get a yeast out of here that can ferment beer? And they're like, looked at it, came back to us about 6 months later, and we got something here. Now, we haven't quite experimented with that one yet, but it's those types of things that a local small brewery can't do that we're really excited to do. So, ever since 2016, we've been working with them. We have most of the equipment down there. The construction's starting. It's at a really good spot.
The Saluki beer that you have here, was that done with your team or like the students came up with that?
So we've made, I want to say 3 or 4 different beers with them.
All right.
So we have our Oktoberfest, which is more like our Oktoberfest, but the Saluki-toberfest, that one's called.
Okay.
We have a porter, the Dog Pound Porter. That's one of their student organizations. It's called the Dog Pound. That's kind of like their students when they go out and root for things. And then they actually created a cream ale.
Okay.
So they call it the Saluki King Cream Ale. So they did, I want to say about 10 different batches. The students made about 10 different batches of beer, kind of voted on they did the whole tasting process, voted on what they liked the most, went through and reiterated another version. Then we went through with them and reiterated it, and then we made a beer. And so that's the first official Saluki beer.
You were talking before, like, you're doing blending. Is that the beer you're going to make today with the orange?
So today, one of the things we've done in the past, but COVID kind of, like many things, derailed. We were doing what we call our infusions. I think we did it on Wednesdays. We've moved it to Thursday nights. So every Thursday night, you can go to any of the tap rooms. Usually we'll have the same infusion on. So today we're doing, I call it like an orange creamsicle cream ale.
All right.
So the idea is pack a whole bunch of orange into our infusers. So we have one here. We have our display infuser on the bar, but the beer actually is going through the oranges. And then we have essentially what is an old jockey box.
All right.
So it has a cold plate in it and all that, and a big, they call them hop rockets. They're used to infuse hops and different things into the beer, and it comes out, and it's pretty amazing.
All right.
And that thing sits for a while too. It's kind of fun. You can get a super orangey one and one that's more of a light hint of one, or just depending on how long that beer has sat in the oranges. So it's pretty cool. Kind of fun, and we do all kinds of crazy things from like spiced beers to coffee and spice with cherries, and like you can really kind of experiment and do some really fun stuff. Like, it's hard to have a new beer every week, but with an infusing system, you really can.
Now, you do that on Thursdays?
Yep.
Does you pretty much, are you done with it on Thursdays? Do you have any left over?
We will sometimes have some left over. Most of the time, if we're dealing with something like fruit, we won't.
Yeah.
But if you got a porter and you're putting some pepper and coffee into it, we might do that through the weekend.
Okay, cool. If somebody is not from the Highland Park or Logan Square area, what kind of distribution do you have throughout the state and Midwest?
Yeah, we actually have 2 distributors.
Okay.
Everybody's in Illinois. Okay. So you can't, unfortunately, we don't go out of Illinois yet, but pretty much all of Illinois is covered except for a little bit of Western Illinois.
All right.
So because of our relationship with Carbondale, SIU, we have started distributing down there with Kerner, and then in the Chicago area, we use Glenn's.
All right.
And so we cover pretty much all of Chicago. And like I said, there's kind of some in-between areas between central and southern Illinois that we're covered, and Chicago that's covered. There's some in-between pockets that it might be a little harder to find, but pretty close to all of Illinois.
All right, well, that's cool. I don't want to get you in any legal trouble with names, but I hear there's a football game coming on that's supposed to be really super. Like, do you have TVs around? Could people come and watch that big football game?
Sounds like it'd be a great big game to watch.
Yeah.
Have some beer.
Yeah,
we do. We have 2 TVs in our tap room plus 2 big screens.
Okay, cool.
And of course, I think I might know the game you're talking about.
Yeah.
It tends to start around 5 o'clock. So our big screens are nice and bright at that point.
All right, very good. Glad to hear it. All right, well, we have some food on the table. I'll put pictures up later so you can see what we're talking about here, but what's in front of us?
So we brought out some of our newer, more creative dishes. Everybody loves the tacos. A lot of people have had the tacos. That's definitely our core lineup. But we've been doing a lot of cool new stuff. And I think especially in the winter, some of these dishes really take off. So first one we'll talk about here is our quesabirria ramen.
Okay.
So we also have quesabirria here. Quesabirria is kind of a mix between a quesadilla and a barbacoa taco.
Okay.
And it has this just awesome consomme sauce that comes with it. So you dip it. It's actually dipped as part of the original taco when they make it. And it's just flavors that are amazing.
I mean, everything smells phenomenal.
It's one of those dishes that is really popular right now. And then we also do a ramen, a true ramen with the broth and the Japanese noodles in there, but we put a quesabirria taco.
All right.
And it has a similar consomme sauce that's actually the ramen broth. So it's just delicious. And it has the barbacoa in there as well. And it's a great winter dish.
Okay.
And this is typically we offer this as we're going to offer it in the winter. We probably won't have it in the summer, but we'll see. And then you lead off of that, and then there is what you mentioned earlier. There's the amazing fried ramen burrito.
All right.
And you basically imagine just taking our ramen, wrapping it in a tortilla shell, and lightly frying it, and all those juices just get kind of compressed into it, and you end up with this crispy ramen burrito, and you have a dipping sauce with it, and it sounds interesting, but also kind of confusing, and then you have it, and you're like, I get it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then the last thing we have here, which a lot of people don't know we have, are tortas, which are
cool.
They're Mexican sandwiches, or And we have a dipping sauce, which is really just our quesadilla dipping sauce, and we use the same barbacoa. And really, I describe this as Chicago's Italian beef Mexican style.
All right.
I mean, imagine you like it wet, you know, you want to dip it. This is what that is, but it has all those spices you're looking for in a quesadilla or the barbacoa tacos. And again, it's warm and it's delicious and it just melts in your mouth.
In addition to these, I see you also do a brunch on Sundays?
Yeah, we started doing brunch a long time ago in Highland Park, and it's been on and off a little bit, but we're back to consistency post-COVID. But we do a wonderful brunch where you can get all your usual, what you would think of for more of a Mexican-style brunch. So you've got your chiliquillas, you have your breakfast burrito, you have a breakfast torta, but we also do pancakes for the kids. We have just an amazing French toast. So that it's like your typical American brunch, but you can have a beer with it, and it's got a little Mexican flair to it.
Cool. Are you open 7 days a week?
Yeah, we're open 7 days a week now. Mondays we open at 4, so it's a little later. But other than that, we're open 7 days a week.
All right, so you can come get a great meal. You can come for Sunday brunch. And I'm going to shut up for a second and take a bite of one of these here. I don't know what to start with first. Guess I might do the taco first. I didn't want to chew with the microphone on, but let me tell you, this food is absolutely out effing standing. My God, you have to come, not just for the beer, but for the food. You will not be disappointed. That's killer. That person needs a raise. Whoever your chef is needs a raise.
We'll keep that quiet.
Yeah, all right.
They're doing
I'll edit that out. Don't worry about it.
They're doing an awesome job.
Yeah.
Like I said, we are so happy with the 3 people we have who are running the kitchens. The food is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think the beer is phenomenal too.
Yeah.
But I really think this is the kind of place you can go to where everybody's going to walk away happy.
Yeah.
They're going to be happy with the food. They're going to be happy with the beer. If they don't like beer, they're going to be happy we have things other than beer.
You mentioned things other than beer. Seems like there's a lot of people doing like NA stuff, hop waters. Is that anything you're thinking about for the future?
Yeah, we did some hop waters last year for dry January.
Okay.
There's potential issues with those in terms of just making sure that, like running them through beer lines is not really a good idea. You don't have alcohol in there and it can be dangerous. So we decided to avoid that this year. It's just, in our mind, it wasn't worth it unless you're going to can it and actually try to get it out in distribution, which we weren't quite ready to do. But there's, we did what's kind of fun is the last couple of years, we've been doing what we call a table beer, like a 2% beer. We dry hop it, so it's kind of like a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale type of beer, but it's only 2%. It's like the semi-dry January.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you can take it easy and still have a beer.
Yeah,
it's
damn
okay.
January.
We've got a couple 4%ers, the 2%er. So that's what we've been focused more on in dry January is try to do more of just very low alcohol content beers.
Excellent. Well, Jeff, I can't thank you again for everything. If you've seen stuff on the news, they're going through some things right now. So if you're in the Highland Park area at 582 Roger Williams Avenue, you're in the city, it's over at 2601 West Diversey, you need to stop at Ravinia Brewing Company. Have yourself a beer, have some food. It's absolutely outstanding. You will not be disappointed. Jeff, thank you so much again, sir.
Thank you.
All right, you're asking yourself, Dave, you just talked to someone at Ravinia. Did you forget to ask certain things? No, we all know what the elephant in the room is. I discussed it on a show a couple of months ago, and there's ongoing legal matters. So Jeff did not tell me anything. We didn't discuss really anything about the ongoing legal issues because, I don't want to get the guy in trouble, and he can't talk about it right now. There's a couple news articles that are out there that go into more detail, and I'll include the link in the show notes. But I do want to mention that they've started a GoFundMe, and I'm going to include the link there because, in my opinion, this lawsuit is bullshit. And Jeff and the Ravinia Brewing Company team have to pay all of these legal bills. So they have a GoFundMe. So if you're not able to support the brewery, please check out the GoFundMe. Donate what you can because They're really good people, and the brewery is a great spot. I love it. The food, like I mentioned, when I was speaking to Jeff, is absolutely killer, and it would be a shame to see anything happen because of some, in my opinion, frivolous bullshit that's going on from the music festival. I do want to have right now is the Beer in Front Community Manners. We had it when we were speaking earlier today, but we were talking about the brewery and everything else, so I didn't really get into too much detail on this beer. So I picked up a 4-pack and, brought that home. So I want to have it now. So I mentioned it's a Vienna lager. They use Vienna malts, good German noble hops. This is 5.3% alcohol by volume and 18 IBUs. So let's crack open Community Matters. Community Matters is a beautiful color. I love the color of a good Vienna lager. It's such a great color. Good foam here, good 2 fingers of foam. Just smells so good. You get the nice balance between the malt sweetness and the noble hops in the aroma. It smells great. Yeah, that's just so good. This was canned yesterday, so it's super fresh. I think it's delicious. Well carbonated, has a good mouthfeel to it. Although, frankly, after a month of not drinking on dry January, anything's going to have a good mouthfeel, but this does have a great mouthfeel. I like the way this tastes. I like the way this feels in the mouth. Nice little bitterness of hops, not a lot. I just think this is just a fantastic beer. Yeah, so if you're near Highland Park, you're near Logan Square, definitely stop in, grab it on tap, take a 4-pack home with you, or if you're in their distribution area, definitely check it out. It's in a nice white can. It's called Community Matters from Ravinia Brewing Company. You need to put this one in the cart. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Beer in Front. I thank you very much for listening, and I need to thank again Jeff Hoobler over from the Ravinia Brewing Company for reaching out, wanting to talk. I can't say enough good things about the place. I mentioned earlier in the show, they're going through some issues right now. I'm going to include some links in the show notes if you want to read more on it. Also, check out their GoFundMe page. They're going through some tough times with frivolous lawsuits, in my opinion. So please, if you can, help them out, because it would be a shame to see anything bad happen to another great Illinois brewery. I'm going to talk to Chicago Bars on Monday, and I'm going to get that episode out probably Wednesday, and then I'm going to have to take a week or so off. We've had a family emergency that needs attention, so I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks, so check out the show Wednesday with Chicago Bars, and then I'll see you in a couple weeks. Have a great couple weeks. Remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. All right, we'll see you in a couple weeks.